Dori has to be the most hated Genshin Impact character of all time, and I can't believe I'm making a misconceptions video about her, but it needs to be done. Before you grab your pitchforks, watch the video first, and if you still have issues with the video, you may then grab your pitchforks. This is going to be a relatively short video, too long to be a short, but too short to be the only video I post this week, so look forward to another video in probably a day or two. It's another misconceptions one, but about Furina instead. If you started the game after Sumeru, you might not know why she is hated so much, so let me give you a brief review of the situation. When Sumeru was released, people were upset that a region that took inspiration from countries with an array of skin tones had primarily light-skinned individuals, and even the ones that were melanated, to say the least, weren't really all that dark. So Dori's design being an Orientalist design of Turkish culture was just more stuff the community didn't appreciate. To make matters worse, every other character had something redeemable about them, except Dori. She had a racist design and a borderline racist personality trait for the culture she was supposedly representing. To top it all off, she doesn't exactly treat Kaveh well, who's basically the Furina of the Sumeru cast. If you don't like him, people will take it as a personal attack on their character, which is dumb. People are allowed to not like whatever character they don't like. I am not here to defend her design or even her personality, but rather the misconception people have about a specific part of her character. I made a Kaveh video this week and it reminded me of this particular situation, so I decided to make a video about it. Subscribe, please, and let's get into the video. Dori gets a lot of hate, not only for her design, but also for her character. She has a generally crappy personality, and you might say, well, people like other morally great characters. The difference is Dori is a realistic bad person, while the others are not bad people most of us would actually encounter in real life. The Fatui Harbingers are fictional characters that feel fictional. They don't feel like they could actually exist. Dori is a fictional character that feels real because a lot of people have been scammed before, and having a character that hits too close to reality will have people treating them worse than an unrealistic bad person. Also, she's like child-sized, which isn't particularly people's favorite, model, so she doesn't benefit from pretty privilege and she has a shitty personality. It's not a good combo. Anywho, the main misconception is that Dori is the reason Kaveh is in debt, which isn't even remotely true in my opinion. Kaveh's debt is all his own fault, but because his fandom can't fathom the idea that their pretty twink boy isn't perfect and has made mistakes in the past, the blame for his debt falls onto Dori, even though it wasn't her fault. Small disclaimer, I don't like Dori, but I don't particularly love Kaveh either, so I have no reason to overhype or overhate either of them. And if you're a public Dori enjoyer, you're a stronger person than me. The most controversial character I like would probably be Paimon, and she's not even as hated as Dori. Anyways, during a particularly rough time for Kaveh, Dori commissioned him to build her a palace of business. He had creative liberty to do whatever he wanted with the building, which is the best thing you could probably say to an artist, especially one that lives in a country that belittles art. This was during Azar's reign, so artists like Kaveh and Nilou were being given trouble for expressing themselves artistically. So to have someone tell him that he could have creative liberty on something he is building must have been music to his ears. He builds, Dori pays. Sounds simple enough, right? Yeah, not quite. Due to having creative liberty, Kaveh wanted a lot of things with the building. One of those things was building it near a cliff, which according to his character story, Dori warned against. But him and his stubborn passion didn't listen, and convinced her that it was okay to build it near the cliff because aesthetics and views. She warned him, he was the one that didn't listen. Dori paid and he built the house. But sadly, at 70% completion, the house was destroyed due to the withering. A natural disaster. That's no one's fault. Dori didn't care enough to pay him to rebuild it since she already lost so much money from it to begin with, so she decided to cut her losses. Kaveh couldn't just let it go. Building the palace of Alcazazare was his chance to show the world his ideals and what he was capable of, and maybe prove to himself as well. So instead of letting it go, he decided to sell his own things to pay for it. He took his savings and sold the house his parents left him, making up 70% of the cost, basically all the costs that was lost from the house being destroyed. Dori gave him the other 30% that was probably leftovers from the previous attempt. If the story ended here, it would have probably been a happier story. But nope, Kaveh went over budget and had to presumably borrow more money from Dori to finish the palace, which is what made him in debt. If he didn't overspend, he would have just been depressed and homeless. And now he's depressed, homeless, and in debt to someone, collecting issues like Dragon Balls at this point. He made a financial mistake while he wasn't exactly mentally sound, and now he's paying for it. That isn't Dori's fault. And before someone says, well, Dori could have just forgiven him for his debt. Why? He chose to make that decision. He's a grown man. It's not her fault he made that decision. She didn't influence him to do anything. So why should she take the brunt of the cost when he went over budget? Managing budget is the architect's job, not the client's. He made a mistake, but that's his mistake to fix, not hers. And let's not pretend Kaveh, with all his ideals and ways of thinking, would have taken Dori forgiving him of his debt as anything but pity. He wouldn't have accepted it. He was in a depressive state of mind, and there was nothing Dori could have done. I don't care for Dori, but to paint her as the villain of the story is just plain BS. She has done actually bad things, and this is what y'all choose to hate her for? The one that's literally plain misinformation? Maybe I'll make a video of all her crimes in the future, but generally speaking, this is probably the last thing you should hate her for. This is a perfectly normal and realistic situation. Kaveh made a mistake, Kaveh's paying for it. In conclusion, it wasn't her fault. Kaveh got himself into this situation, and he's dealing with it pretty well, honestly. She has probably done some horrible things. I'm sure she has actually done some horrible things, but that's not the topic of today's video. We're clearing up misconceptions, not reinforcing assumptions. That's all I have for today. Look forward to my Farina video. Subscribe and see you whenever.